If you have been rejected in a relationship, be encouraged. There is hope for you. The best is yet to come for you. I'm going to share more about this in the next few minutes. And While You're Single TV, the channel for single adults who desire godly relationships. Hello, my name is OJ Tokes. I am the host of While You Are Single. I have been talking about how God uses rejection to basically direct you to the right person. The key to overcoming rejection is simply to know that God is using it for your benefit. That God is using rejection not as a wall that blocks you from finding love, but an arrow that directs you to the love of your life. We can see this happen in the story of Moses. In Exodus chapter 2, verse 12, we hear that he killed an Egyptian. And perhaps you're familiar with the story of Moses. He was an Israelite who was born to the Israelite people, but he was sent to Egypt as a baby, and he was raised there, and he was raised in Pharaoh's household. But to cut a long story short, he killed an Egyptian, and the Pharaoh found out about it and was about to kill him. So Moses ran for his life. In Exodus chapter 2, verse 15, he went to the vicinity of Midian and he sat by a well. He ran away from Pharaoh. He went to the land of Midian and he sat by a well. In Exodus 2:16, the Bible talks about a guy named Jethro. He's also known as Reuel. He had 7 daughters. They came to a well to water their father's flock. In Exodus 2:17, the Bible says shepherds drove them away from watering their father's flock, but Moses stood up for them, helped them, and watered their flock. Later on, the girls got home, and their father, Jethro, or Reuel, was shocked that they came home earlier than usual, and he asked them what happened, and they told them, Moses helped them out. Then he asked his daughters where the guy was who helped them out by the well, and he told them to go back and get him. So they went back and brought him home. He ate with them, and he was content to live with them. And Jethro, in Exodus 2:21, gave him Zipporah, one of his 7 daughters, to marry. But before I kind of break down the connection between Moses and Zipporah and rejection, I'd like us to go to John chapter 4. This is the story of where Jesus met a Samaritan woman, and he asked her to give him water to drink. And she said that Jesus was not even supposed to be talking with her because she was a Jew and she was a Samaritan. And she also questioned, he didn't have anything to draw water with. And to cut a long story short, in John 4, verses 13 and 14, Jesus told the woman that if you drink water from this well, you will thirst again. But if you drink the water that I give, you will never thirst. I want to make the connection between water and Jesus. Jesus is the water of life. Jesus is referring to himself as a well, so to speak. So with that in mind, I want us to go back to the story of Moses and Zipporah. I want us to look at the well. Yes, it's a physical well, but I want us to also think of it from the perspective of God. A well represents God and his ability to supply your needs. So Moses was in Egypt and he killed an Egyptian, and Pharaoh heard about it, and Pharaoh was about to kill him, so he ran. So basically, I'm sure you will agree with me that when someone is trying to kill you, that's the worst form of rejection. They don't even want you to exist. So that rejection, the attempt to kill Moses, led him to the well. Exodus 2:15, the first place he ended up in Midian, was by the well. Similarly, when you experience rejection, go to the well. Go to God. Let him help you. So Moses ended up by the well. Meanwhile, Jethro's daughters came to the well to draw water. And the Bible says shepherds drove them away. Shepherds drove them away. Shepherds restricted their efforts in drawing water from the well. When you are driven away, it's a form of rejection. But Moses stood up for them. Shepherds driving them away is very significant. Like I mentioned before, we're looking at the well from the perspective that it represents God. Sadly, the place that a lot of people experience rejection is the same place they're supposed to receive encouragement. And I'm referring to church. Sometimes in some churches, some people have experienced terrible experiences. These ladies were going to the well to draw water for their livelihood. And every time they went to that well, they encountered the shepherds. But in this case, Moses stood up for them and helped them out. When they got home earlier than usual, which suggests they usually came home late. And the reason they usually came home late, based on what they experienced earlier that day, is probably because the shepherds always drove them away. So they had to wait for the shepherds to do what they wanted to do at the well before they got their water, and then they go home late. But today it was a different day because Moses was there to help them out. And like I mentioned, sometimes people experience rejection in church, an environment where we're supposed to receive from the water of life.